Soul Live love and greetings. I have with me today a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful soul who is helping us in starting this series of unique origin stories and constellations, family constellations. And I wanted to be able to share some people that I'm inspired by and some of their works and their ways of being in the world as it relates to not only their origin story, but most specifically foster care and adoption and the weaving of those beautiful threads of life. So today I am welcoming my dear sister, new friend, and her name is Margaux Delotte-Bennett. Oh, I did it. This is tied
This is
into our
totally
origin
fine.
stories because immediately when I look at the
You
writing,
said you weren't gonna look,
I said I wasn't going to do it.
and
And
it's
I do the
okay.
French pronunciation and then of this, but this fits into our story.
Yes.
Anyways, she is the child of Jamaican immigrants and a mother through foster care and adoption. She has lived experience of othering, marginalization, struggle, and triumph. As a social work educator at Gallaudet University, I would have done it again with the
Yeah.
spelling. I would have made the French. I would have done that.
Yeah.
University and a therapist in private practice. These experiences influence her work. And welcome. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you so
joining me.
much.
Thank you for
I'm so
joining me.
happy to be joining you. This is very exciting
Um,
for me.
Yay. One of the things, and I would love to simply, I have an introduction that is longer that I will add later about even the story and adoption constellations. This is not my story. My story is on the blog,
Hmm.
along with many other references. But I wanted to speak to you first. And I have, it's the gift being able to speak to you first because your poem, you're a poet, you're many things. You're mama, your daughter, you're all of these things. But it is your poem that through a mutual sister friend, a beautiful sister joy friend, that we connected. And it was your poem that spoke to me years ago. So even our
Mm.
connection, this is a weaving in its own, but it was your poem as and how you spoke about mothering and your the dance and the holding the paradox. And this is why I want people to be able to hear your story and connect with you with regard to how you can hold those paradoxes. You understand from your own experience and
Right.
who you be, how you be, what you've lived from your own origin story, but now also holding space for your beloved child who and the titles and the name, but it was the poem. And I would love it. I would love it if you feel to share it because I think everyone should hear it. And just so everyone knows, there will be links to the blog. It's called The Greatest Story Ever Told, is the story you
Mhm.
tell about yourself. Links, you will find all of that, including the poem. But would you be interested in sharing it? Does it feel good to start that
Yes,
way, or does it
absolutely.
feel better to
Absolutely.
add it later?
It's perfect.
Because
Well,
it's
one thing I'll
why.
also say, it's National Poetry Writing Month, NaMoWriMo. So in the month of April, poets tend to try and write 30 poems in 30 days. And so I am attempting that feat myself. And so I'm going to share this poem that I wrote and maybe later on or right after, I'm not sure yet, I will share my poem that I wrote for NaNoWriMo this year just yesterday, which is similar themes.
Beautiful.
But this piece is called He Lets Me Know That He Misses Her. His birth mom, his first home, joint solace and burdensome muse. I am not afraid of these talks or my quote unquote place. The complicated truth we peruse as yet another holiday shines light on what is had and what is lost. Mother's Day comes at a high cost. It is hard for so many, mamas that loom in their absence, making hearts heavy when they finally do appear. Mothers just out of frame, out of touch, out of reach. My boy teaches me daily that our stories don't have to imprison. Talking about a thing doesn't need to be hard. Appreciating what is includes grieving what's been lost. As he settles his growing frame, yet again in the center of our bed, I give thanks for what I've been gifted and all the things we never leave unsaid.
Let's just take a moment because for anyone listening as well, it goes straight to the heart. It goes straight to the heart. I love it. I love it. And that is what reminded me in the midst of all of the stories and the journeys and people that I've met, not only within adoption, foster care, um, travels, all of that. It's that you can hold the paradox and the conversations don't have to be hard.
Yeah, they don't.
And as we navigate in daily life. So
Yeah.
can you start, just let's go to your origin story. Let's go to your, I keep thinking of Trinity roots in the sense of we've got where we're from, we've got our bloodline, we have our land that feels closest to our home and soul, but then there's also where we make home with where we've been planted and what has been our life story and what has been lived. So can we step back from that and talk about your origin story and what your experience in this world has been?
Yes. And my origin story of of also where how I was raised or where I came from,
Where
absolutely.
you're, I want it to
Hmm.
be whatever feels that whatever wants
Whatever
to
comes.
flow, because
Yeah,
that also can change also at different spaces
that's
and
true.
time. So
That's
I,
true. So in this moment now, I am very rooted in the fact that I am a first generation American because both of my parents were born in Jamaica and I was born in Queens, New York. And but we spent every summer in Jamaica with my grandparents. And so like it was just very clear that we were not just of this place, of the American place, that there was something else that we could leave and go to. And leaving America is something that I pride myself on, like at least every other year. Like I have to breathe somebody else's air because this place can be very stifling. Um, but I was born to Jamaican immigrants that came to the US in 1970. Um, and when my mother was pregnant with me, she knew that her marriage was falling apart. And so she tells me the story of crying on her belly and but saying like, baby, it's not you. I'm not upset about you. I just know that you're coming into a situation that just doesn't feel really good. And so, but she's like, I need you to be my big girl. And so from my parents got divorced when I was 2, and from age 2, I had to be like a big girl. And I think my mom, she tells a story of also that once when I was 4, I was like cranky about something, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're still a baby." Like in her mind, I had to be this big girl, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, that's right, you're a baby. So sometimes you're just gonna be fussy, and so that's okay, too." So grew up in a single parent household. Um, I I had an auntie that had twin boys by herself, single parent. And so I just thought that that was my story too. So I was very clear. I knew that parenting was my story, and I just had a feeling I was going to do it by myself because I knew it was possible and I saw it and I didn't see a problem with it. It was just one way of making family. And so I originally moved to DC to go to college. And then I stayed, like I knew, like, oh, DC is home. I knew I wasn't gonna go move back into my mom's house. Like once I went to college, I was like, yeah, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of grown. Like we have a great relationship, but I just knew like this is your home and I need to make my own home. So DC became my home. And even though I would travel, I'd always come back. Like I did a year and a half in South Africa doing volunteer work because um, I was interning with Amnesty International in the US. I wanted like a Peace Corps like experience, and I ended up kind of making that happen in South Africa. And then like in I did grad school in DC, and I found out we could do international travel as a part of our grad internship. So I did an internship in India for 6 months. So, but I always knew I was coming back to DC because DC was home. So I lived very fully, and 40 came around and I still didn't have any babies. Like I didn't birth any babies. And I was like, okay, I think it might be time for me to start making my family. And so I was very clear. I was like, either I will do what interuterine
I
IUI
do.
yes, not IVF, but IUI is like intrauterine insemination. So it was just like yeah. So I thought I was gonna make a baby, or I was going to do foster care or adoption. But I was like, I'm going down both of these roads at the same time,
Yeah.
and whatever happens, happens. So I did my training. I did, and because I was at the time, I was a single mother. DC requires that you have a backup foster parent just because things happen. You might get
Right.
sick, the baby might
It's
need
not.
something, somebody else needs to go to an appointment. So, and I had shared the documentation with about six of my friends, and only one completed the paperwork, my friend Aaron. And he has been an amazing uncle to my son since he arrived, since David and I started making family. So, so the foster care adoption route is kind of what started to fruit. DC is really good at training because they let you know, they're like, get very clear about what you're looking for. Like, don't just say yes to everything because we don't want any children to be in care. So we're gonna send you everybody. Even if you say, I would really love to work with a 13-year-old, they're gonna offer you a 2-year-old. Or they're gonna offer you in DC, you can be in foster care through 21. So you might get an 18-year-old.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah, DC, because you never stop needing your
It's
family.
true. And even the reality of like 18 and you're an adult, it's like,
Yeah,
wait a
yeah.
minute. Although, so now I'm going to go to these two sides of the paradox because one, first of all, when your mom was speaking about, she was connecting with the soul of who you were, the spirit of, but
Yes.
she's only two, right? So there's
Hmm.
that. There are some energies, and because we're all different, we all have different stories, and hence how you navigated your life, and also saying, no, I'm ready to be a mother, and this is that's the spirit and the ancestral. To me, it's an ancient knowing that is connected
Hmm.
to who you are. And then at the same time, you're bringing in this reality that in DC, you can still be a foster parent of a 19-year-old. So here
Of a
again are
19.
the two sides of that. Okay, so and
Yes.
you're right. It's like you're not 18 and you're an adult, but some. I mean, I was probably similar because of certain things. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going. It was
Hmm.
the world is my oyster. But there are certain souls that I think call forth these
Yes.
ways of being too, and very unique
Hmm.
in that way. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
I
DC was very, no, not interruption at all. DC was very clear. They're like, make sure that you're clear what experience you want. And for me, I don't think I needed one. I know that newborn babies there's like the longest waiting list. Everyone wants a baby, baby, baby because they think, oh, these older children will be troubled and traumatized. They're going to be traumatized and troubled even as a newborn baby too. So you just have
mm-hmm,
either you want a
mm-hmm,
parent or you don't want a
mm-hmm,
parent.
mm-hmm,
But for me, I was just like, potty training. I don't know if I need it. I don't know if I need it. So the
mm-hmm,
age range, but I still might have to deal with it depending on what trauma the child is experiencing.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I guess I should also say that I'm a social worker and I knew that, and I'm a social worker who has worked with young people who were in foster care. So I knew the realities of foster care in DC because we had a lot of them that would come to our runaway and homeless shelter in DC, where I worked for many years. And so, like, I had one young lady who wasn't always running away from her foster mom's house because she's like, they don't care. They just want the money that they get from DC government for caring for me, but they are not caring for me. We had a young man who's it's very similar experience as well. And that's not so uncommon.
Mm-hmm.
But so I knew that whatever child I was providing a home for, I was going to it was going to be, they do have official therapeutic foster homes where you are like, it's like a therapist experience in your everyday. And I was just like, that's the experience that I'll be giving to this child just because of who I am and how I show up
You
in the
are.
world. Um, and so, yeah, I didn't need potty training. So I said, okay, from age 3 to age 7 was the age range that I wanted, or 3 to 10, I think was the age range that I gave. The first child that they were like, hey, can we place this 13-year-old with you? No, you can't. What about this? I think it was even older. I think it was like a 16-year-old. And I was like, no, three
Mhm.
to 10 is my age range. And
Mhm.
so when David came to me, he was 4 going on 5. And the funny thing, they said that I was going to get a placement, but there was no confirmation of what day or when. Like the placement is coming soon. And it was my high school reunion that weekend. And I was like, am I going out of town or I'm not going out of town? Um, and I just didn't know. And then also the week after my high school reunion was through my relationship, my now husband, Rick, my bonus daughter now, Kyla, she was graduating from high school that week that David was placing. So I was like, oh, I'm trying to go to South Carolina to go to her graduation. And so I say as much to my social worker, like, well, can he come with me for the weekend and then someone else take him? And then when I come back from South Carolina, he can come with me again. And she's like, no, that's not how parenting works. You
Yeah.
don't check
Yeah.
in and check out your children. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, um,
With a big
yeah,
welcome. It was like a
yeah.
big welcome. Welcome to welcome to motherhood.
Welcome. Yes, and my partner at the time, or my sweetheart at the time, Rick, was just like, so many tickets have been like wasted. Like so many trips haven't happened because somebody gets sick, or like it's okay. Like it there'll be other experiences that you will have. It's a-okay. So my little boy David we became family in June, and I decided that I was going to have him call me auntie. So I was Auntie Margaux because of his age, I didn't want him to feel like he had to play favorites or make a
Mhm.
decision or
Yeah.
say mommy to someone who's a stranger. So I
Yes.
was just like, just call me
Yeah.
auntie. Everybody's got aunties.
Yeah. It's respect. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. And holds space for the all and allows it to be led by them also in
Mm-hmm.
that, by saying, I'm
Right.
not trying to take the place, which I've heard over and over from ones that it's like adoptees or even in foster care. It's like, you're asking me to honor a contract that I didn't sign. So
I
from the
didn't
get go,
sign.
yeah, from the get go, you're saying, I will be auntie. And you didn't make it be. And that's what some of the ones even running away from not even foster care or parents, they're like, they don't love me. This is not my home. So they already know by how it feels and how you
Mm-hmm.
chose to enter into that and say, okay, you can call me auntie, and then allow it to develop in that way. I so bow to the beauty that is you, because that, from all of the ones, and I've worked with so many, that there's this wound of like, you're placing me with strangers and saying that, okay, now you call me mom. It's like we're playing make believe here. What is this?
We're playing make believe.
You honored it from the beginning, which is again why I feel your story is so
Mm-hmm.
important. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. And I told it as much to his
Auntie.
birth mom too, that like I am auntie and I am a part of your team. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
very much on the first goal for any foster care placement is reunification. That's the
Mm-hmm.
goal. We want you to go back home.
Say it again. Say it again for
The
all that are not
first
listening. Say it
If
again.
you don't know this, your training should have told you the first
Yes.
goal of foster care is reunification. It's to give the birth family space and time to fix whatever it is that is
Yep.
going on that has led them to this rupture.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I am on your team. Like, I want you to win. I am auntie. I'm not trying to take your place. I can't. It's not my
Mhm.
place. And I
Yeah.
remember his birth mom early on being like, oh, you're one of the good ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, oh my God, that was such a
Exactly.
gift
Exactly.
because she also was in foster care.
Okay.
She had lived experience of her own.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I wasn't trying to be anything other than who I was and how I was and honoring her role and her place, we could partner. We
Beautiful.
could partner. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And so,
That's a
yeah.
really big piece. And I want to pause there for a second because whether it's foster care or adoption, it's making agreements that then also have to be lived in real time, in real reality in the family. And so the way that you held space for that and really said, I am an ally. I am not against. So usually in the sense of the ones that I've worked with in the sense of the adoption, there's been the other aspects where they're trying to take care of the parents' feelings. They're trying
Mm,
to, I want to give you this Disney version of what you're looking for, of like, even too, this is what we want. We want, and then at the end of the day, the child sitting there going, but wait a minute, all of this is being decided without having a conversation with me. And at any age, and that's one, I'm going to go back to your poem again, that we can have conversations. I'm not saying it right, but we can have hard conversations, but it doesn't have to be hard. You can have these conversations all the way, which you will be required to between birth, birth family, the children, like all of it. And at any stage, it can be a commercial or something that pops up and the child should be allowed to say, I'm missing this or that, and that there's a space for it. Because
right.
the ones that are trying to say that there will be no, oh, they don't have any issues, they don't have any, it's because they don't feel safe to have that conversation. They are not the safe
Right.
space for that conversation to be had. So
Right.
again, I I honor you.
Mhm. And we have these folks that have already gone through a trauma. Like I don't care what adoption is a trauma, foster care is a trauma. Like it's we have folks that have gone through trauma who are then responsible for caring for the feelings of big people.
Right,
That is rubbish.
right.
That is
Or to
that is not what it's supposed to
Yeah,
be.
or to accept a narrative that it's like, okay, are we all just playing pretend? There was a woman that said that. She goes, I just felt like we were playing pretend. Like, okay, this is your mom. You call her mom, and then it's like you just, place this child in there, which again, everyone is doing the best that they can. But I also know that there is an intention that I have for the ones that are even coming into it now to
Mhm.
really sit down and have those conversations. Exactly also how you said, no, wait a minute. I'm clear on what I have the capacity for. I want between this age and this age. And in that, being clear and then not also the the sending back. I'm glad you didn't go on your trip and then then bring them back and then whatever. But
That
it's
would
like
have been crazy.
there's also things in that are it's important, very important.
Yes. I had to learn that. I had to learn that. Um, and so it's interesting. I think there is something in the fact that David and I are both brown. Like there's a way in which people assume that he is my birth child. I also have a big belly. Just naturally, my family is big belly ladies. So everyone's like, oh, that's Dave. David left that belly on her. And I'm like, actually, he's adopted. Oh, or like it's just interesting. Like
Somebody has really said that to you? No.
not as much. They haven't said
Oh,
it, but
okay.
that's the feeling
I
that
was
I
picturing
get.
that in real time of like, are
No,
you
no, no.
kidding? I
But no, there's always an assumption that he is my birth child. I think because we're
okay.
both brown. Like there's a way in which that when adopted or foster children have share ethnicity or
Yeah.
facial structure, anything like there's a way that we just make everybody we just uncomplicate everyone's very complicated lives because it's easier for us to just keep on walking if we just take away all the nuance and all of the, the different ways that we can make family.
Hmm.
I do notice that there's just times when it's almost like I was asking David about this yesterday because we were at the doctor's office and he started talking about, well, my birth mom and birth dad and da, da, da. I'm like, it's interesting that the it's almost like the conversation bubbles up most when we're in a doctor's office. And
Mhm.
I'm not, and I was trying to be curious about it. Like, tell me more about that. Have you noticed that? And he's just like, no, just I feel like talking about it.
Mhm.
It was just an interesting thing that I noticed.
Or
Mm,
an imprint. I want to speak to that because I have had in my life, so I say even the journey for my own adoption story and all of it, always comes in pieces. I have had different experiences in all kinds of different settings, but it'll bring something up. And so the fact that it came up and you're like, well, why does this seem to come up then? I remember being in, I was after I had my son, I was in Indonesia after traveling, and I was doing work that I do now. Um, it's like a womb surround. And the women that were holding the space, because you go in to also retrieve if there's anything that is lost from your own birth or pieces in that way. And I remember, and I'm so at the time 29, and I remember sitting there, maybe I was 30, and it was a therapeutic, metaphysical session. But even as they sat down and they were reading the questionnaire that I filled out, and there were two women, beautiful souls, beautiful, amazing work. But as they were looking at the file and they were consulting and they were looking at it, and I remember I got mad and I went, there is not anything that you will find out from that piece of paper that you will not find out from me directly. Do you know? Like and I
mm,
sat there, and then she looked at me. I'm like, we're already in it, aren't we? Like, meaning this is already happening. Someone's sitting there with a clipboard, and and that energy somehow, or even from the stories of like, well, your file said, and the social worker said, and so like it was a file. It was connected to here's a file, and then the two of them were sitting there, and it was for rebirthing and metaphysical work, but just the file itself, I was like, whew, and there it is, which is also the
mm,
gift and the opportunity for it to come up. So when you said he's, it's like, well,
mm,
why does it seem to come out? Okay, maybe in those settings, and then or the number of times having to go to whether it's a doctor or here's the paperwork, and then here's the bubbling forth of his stories of like my birth mom is something. It's like it comes up sporadically, which is why
yeah.
I also so honor and through out our lives and however that plays. So the fact that just yesterday being at the doctor and then his and then also there's a is this a good time for the poem to come in?
For the second poem, yes, the poem
Okay.
about that experience.
Okay. I'm gonna
Uh,
you will you I am right here. I have to grab my charger.
okay,
So I'm right here and I'm here, but I have to plug this in or we will be cut off before time. So
got it,
there's my
got it. All right. Um, the next poem, so as a part of the National Poetry Writing Month exercise, this is my poem number 23 of 30. Um, and so the poem is entitled How They See We. The family of adoption is full of pitfalls and quicksand, words getting twisted, feeling trampled as new roadways of language are paved and exposed. Today it was a seemingly simple question about whether my son was premature or carried to term. No memory of his gestation is in my body or mind. He also has no idea of his arrival on the road to this time. We could ask his birth family, but answers are sometimes slow, incomplete, incoherent, and discreet, and never in the time they are needed. This all seeded questions in the mind of the doctor. So, are you the guardian or the foster mom? No, the adopted mom. Oh, I see. But do you really? When we are still trying to make sense of the landmines you make us of the landmines that make us we. That was yesterday's experience. And I did find out that he was carried to term, but this morning, after like I got the message after we long left the doctor's office, we did send it to his um, birth father to get to get that answer. But I think something that came to me as we were talking about like how one of the reasons why David went forward with not with reunification, but with going to adoption is because he had a lot of medical stuff happening. Like he had, um, yeah, there were just medical issues that had come up that needed to be addressed. And so we did have a lot of doctor's appointments. So that I think that was like a, with me was where a lot of involvement with the medical institution happened.
Yeah.
And so I think that might also be why, like,
Yeah. The forms and the questions and
the
the,
forms and the
yeah.
questions and the yeah
Yeah.
might bubble up more in those spaces. Yeah.
How, so I know just from even who you be and how you write, I know his lived experience is of, I just see these huge arms coming around,
Mm.
and not only your own, but I feel it in your village, your community. I feel it. Does he ever address things on his own and bring them up in the sense of like even after yesterday? So he was, he was going off and here's all of this. But are there moments where he comes and he has different things that you different questions that kind of go, oh, I don't I don't know. And then you have to have that conversation with his birth family, his
Yeah.
mother,
Hmm.
not also his
Hmm.
father, right? His birth mother.
His birth mother and birth father. Yeah. Yeah, we open communication is kind of the way that we live. And he has lots of aunties and uncles that, so there's some things that he will bring to them that he won't bring to me. Some things he'll bring to
Mm-hmm.
me that he won't bring to them. Um, but yeah, generally we like whatever questions he has, we kind of to make our time and find the answers for them. He's going to be 13 this fall, and there is a lot of research and writing and articles about how puberty tends to be, it's hard for everybody, but it's exceptionally hard also, or can be exceptionally hard also for those that have experience with foster care and adoption, just around like changing bodies and emotional and just like just wanting answers about like what will I be as as a younger or older younger adult, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so having lots of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So we're open. I'm curious. I'm curious to see what kind of a teenager he'll be. Like there's, I think he's going to be a bit broody of a teenager because like even now, like when something is bad, it's so bad. When something's good, it's so good. So he's got lots of drama, and everyone's like, because you're so dramatic. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, but he doesn't have any qualms about like just saying, hey, I'm really missing my birth mom tonight. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I miss her
Hence, he lets
too.
me know that he misses her. Do you know it's
Yeah.
it's been part of it, and that had to be years ago because I remember
Hmm.
at the time I think I was in. This had to be years ago that you wrote that.
Yeah.
So from very young, that was his
Yes, from
comfort
very
level.
young.
But I
Hmm.
want to speak to the fact of, so you with puberty, but then also from the realms that I'm in, pregnancy and their own family making is another one where then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, and I'm a prime example of like I had to be physically during my pregnancy in the places that I knew from my little folder. Oh, this is her biological, this is where. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, well, I'll just go to those countries in the sense of being on the land because I do receive a lot. And so even as you're speaking about him, the ancestors, the bloodline, it's next to them. So in the sense of the imprints that we receive from our families and who we live with in our upbringing, but there are so many things that I just know are a part of my lineage. And because I was kind of taken down that path in the sense of exploring it, that even if you don't have details, there are things literally through dreams, through different rituals that all of a sudden it's like it just starts popping up, or traits, personality, different things. It's amazing, and it's a lot of fun to kind of explore that, and then to feel that they can explore that without there being um, a negative. So I mean, I think I waited until obviously my pregnancy. It was that, but it was something that was, it just felt normal. And even now, so we did talk about this, but my son's birthday is today. He's 21, but he's going for
Wow.
Ethiopian food
Nice.
for his birthday dinner, and brought his lover, his friend, a Berberi, and just in general, his first tattoo was his name in Amharic. And so even that, even those imprints, he was in my womb in these
Hmm.
places as I was on that vision quest. So the ancestor line, obviously, he's my biological child, but there's things that I didn't have that, but I
Hmm.
found that weaving through how I lived my life, which is why I love these stories and shares about our constellations in that way, because you can do all you want. I don't care if it's religion or all of these different things. What is in them will come out. And who
Right.
is in them in the sense, and and not just the trauma and pain. There's amazing gifts and things that it's like, well, why are they, it's like if they piece it together later, if they choose to, but even so, there's a joy in that unfolding. And I also
Yeah.
see the joy when you're saying you're witnessing him in his becoming and his being. And
Yeah.
it's, I think we get to have all. That's why I think it's also, when I say Trinity roots, we have our mother line, our father line, but we also have what shapes us and who shapes us and the lands and the experiences. So to me, there's such a really beautiful trinity that comes into play with regards to ourselves, our kids, and the stories we live.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell him he's one of my best teachers, one of my favorite teachers. I tell him I'm so happy that he gave me the title of mommy. Like I really wanted to be a mommy, but he's the one that actually made me a mommy. So I thank him for
Mhm.
that. We, yeah, he and I have a very loving, caring relationship, and he's a great travel companion too. Like we've done
Yeah,
some traveling, just the two of us. Um, and so yeah, I love
yeah,
him to bits. And through
yeah.
marriage, I have a bonus daughter
Okay.
who is in her 20s. And so, but it's interesting because there was a disruption. At 13, she was moved from this area to South Carolina, like with only like a week's notice. And that
Okay.
led to a disruption between my husband and her, as
Okay.
in like this formative time in her life. There's a
Hmm.
piece of her that feels stuck at 13. And so
Okay.
I feel like in many ways I'm parenting that teenager as I like
Okay.
support her through kind of navigating, understanding unconditional love. Um, I think she doesn't quite get it. Um, and we're working on it. We're working on it. And
And
so yeah.
the tests of that, and one of the things that I also, in the people that I get to walk with, as with midwifery or some of the other things that I work with, it can happen at any stage. Like there's things that come out and you don't know. It's like you just literally show up, and it's whatever is going on in
Hmm.
real life and how that is navigated. And I don't think there is any one way, but I see even in your being, okay, now what? How do we how do we navigate? It's like the ability, and I'm going back to already even where we started, when your mom's like, oh, she's only two, that the wisdom and the ancient, the ones that are walking with you as you are like, okay, we got this. Oh, okay, she's just going to need this. Or she's, you know what I mean? I just see an amazing being capable of holding the complexity, of holding all of it. And that is family. This is where I think some people in whether it's adoption, foster care, if there's not if they're creating from a fantasy and they're trying to insert a real live human being who is not following a script, who is literally
Right.
being all truthful and honest in whatever's going on in their own being with regard to their story. And then the layers that happen. Because now I will say that there was I do it once a year as far as kind of just circling back to the adoption piece. And then I check myself as well, like, okay, are there things that are unhealed, or if, you know, if it doesn't just pop up randomly. And there was another man who was probably, I'm 50, so he was maybe, I would say, 10, 15 years older than me. So a different generation of adoption and foster care too. And at the end of this conversation, which was a whole group, all, you know, foster care adoptees in different constellations, and he and I both ended the call together after like all of these connections. And we both just looked at each other and laughed. We smiled and laughed because where we were at in the journey itself was of wholeness and acceptance, and also seeing the reality. So even for mothers and fathers to not also in the sense of like, okay, we're all figuring it out as we go. So there's also a side where we can see different things of, yes, it would have ideally been better, but it wasn't. If it could have been, it would have been, but it wasn't. This is what it is. And
Right.
then, and so he and I, at the end of the conversation, we connected on joy of like that. It's like, because again, we honor all the stages, and I still will go through different things, but I don't stay too long. And so even when you mentioned your I'm still going to call your daughter.
My
Um,
daughter.
yeah. So this is where too. I've never done that. Even with my son, who is all of his. We say it's like Mama Heather, his dad's wife. It's always Mama, or from Indonesia. Everyone is Mama, and everyone is Papa. It's just what it is, or how you said Auntie. You know, and it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
just what it is. But I really love that right before my 50th birthday, I got to end this call, and then all of these different people at different stages of processing their origins, and then having him and we just laughed. He goes, you don't seem bothered. I'm like, because this is my story. It's my life. And I feel at peace and okay with all that is, in the sense of it's my story, and it isn't necessarily something that is crippling for life. So I do wish for some to see that as well, that it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a life sentence. It doesn't have to be. And yet, for maybe a 13-year-old or one who's in it, it can be, this is, you know, so this is where, again, so now bring in
Right.
bring in hormones, bring in all these different aspects and how the emotions that are going through, but then also it's the end of the world.
Yes.
The end of the world
Absolutely.
as we know it, and honoring each stage. And I absolutely love how you hold space and your being and your light and your energy that you bring to all to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you. I am in my master's of social work program. I had a professor who herself was an adoptive mom, and she taught an amazing class on adoption. Amazing class that I still like refer to the resources and the books that she gave us during that class. And I remember bringing to the class the knowing that like there at the time I had happened upon somebody's, I think it was like an online zine, these two Southeast Asian women who were like, we were stolen. Like our white parents bought us and were pissed about it. And
Yeah.
so like the teacher didn't know that anybody had voiced that opinion. And I was just like, you are under a rock that if you think everybody who is in this experience of foster or adoption thinks that it's the best thing since sliced bread, it's not true. And so I
Mhm.
remember like that class and that experience and like what I have happened upon has allowed me to know that one, you just have to be in whatever experience the person has. Like
Mhm.
let them tell you what it's like or how it was or where they are or what they understand it to be. Um, but also that it is this is such a big thing. Like it's not a small thing.
Mhm.
You know, family making is never a light thing. Like it happens all the time. It
Mhm.
happens, you know, I think it's like 50% of pregnancies are unplanned, like something like some huge number like that. And so we know
Yeah.
it's not something trivial, but we can't trivialize it even more, like just because it's not how you expected it to happen, or
Mhm.
or how
Mhm.
people are showing up in their lives. That's one thing I wanted to say. Another thing that comes to mind is I'm remembering. So my little boy came to me at 4, about to be 5, and there were times when he was so enraged. And I think that rage isn't something that we give enough space to.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I think Black people aren't allowed to feel rage. Everybody else can be enraged and upset and call so and so, but I think Black people aren't always allowed to feel rage. And I remembered, I was like, I have to figure out how to hold space for this, but also not to just watch him come undone
Mhm.
because he is raging like this. And so that was one of the dances that we had to figure out, right? How do I create space for you to feel this anger, which is all justified,
Mhm.
but also to make it not consume you.
It's very important. And this is where I'll just share this little piece. And because you said also because of um, Africans maybe not being allowed, like having to curtail and not express that. When my son was the first years in Bali, I was still serving as a womb shaman in all of the ways. But one of my trainings and foundation in my 20s, and still to this day, I facilitate trance dance where ones can literally, there's emotions, and I'm holding space for adults to allow whatever wants to come out. And in a room full of people, loud music, blindfolded because nobody can, you're in your own journey, there's this release, and just to move it through screaming and yelling or dancing, and the music is so loud that you can't even, you won't even hear the person next to you. But my
Hmm.
son, when he was little, because we were in a culture, and Bali's beautiful, it was amazing for his landing, but they, a lot of times it's pacifying because there was so much love and so many mamas. And I remember telepathically, I remember, and that was our first communication in many ways. And I remember saying, okay, but you're eventually going to have to speak. They speak here. Come on. You're going to have to talk.
Hmm.
But I said he needed to rage. Like he was always being stopped from crying or like, oh, and distracted and something. And I
Hmm.
remember I had gotten home from a birth or somewhere in the village, and I remember saying, and I saw him and I saw his eyes, and I said he needs to trance. We took a trip. We went to not trance with music, but I brought him to a specific space in the land that really reminded me of Ethiopia. And it literally, it was in Indonesia, but from my experience and the energy that I felt in this place. And I remember I looked at him and I kind of, it was like, are you ready? And he was only 2, maybe 2, yeah, maybe 2, but I could see he needed to release. And I set him down by the tree and I sat there and I said, I'm right here and I'm not going anywhere. I used what I used from trance for holding space for adults, that of that. And all of a sudden he just, because there was nothing, he wasn't crying, he wasn't something. And he just looked at me and I was like, it was like giving permission to like, okay, here's the space. And there will not be your myriad of mamas who love you going, oh, no, no, no. And then trying. And he just released and was
Hmm.
screaming and something. And then all of a sudden he went, and I was like, okay, you're good. And it was between him and I, whereas like our family, they couldn't. There was no way he would be, and it wasn't leaving him. I was like, I'm right here. And I just held the space. And he was fantastic. So I knew at different phases throughout his journey too, when that
Hmm.
buildup or him the smiling and all of the stuff and all of the different beings, that space for rage is important. So for little ones, puberty, ourselves at any stage, as long as we allow it, it can move through as easily as breath. It can move through, but it's when we keep pushing it. So yeah. Yeah. And then thinking, because that to me is also how will it sound? Because in the village and where we lived, it's like everyone here. So if he was crying, it was always, oh. And so I knew his lungs. And he's also a little African boy that has a different energy. So not the same as his Balinese brothers and sisters, a
Mm,
different
right.
frequency, that he needed that. And so I called forth the guardians of the land, the ancestors, and he just in the tree, and he was held, and and as soon as it was maybe 10 minutes, and he just released, and that rage was a beautiful thing. Yeah. So
Mm,
I think we're close to our time. I thank you. I thank you. I do want, for ones that are listening to this, there's an introduction that is longer, from me, about the context and my intention of having these conversations about origin stories. But all of the links to, the poem, well, the one poem, so not the poem that you wrote yesterday, but
right.
your work, for ones to be able to contact you, because I also think, as it pertains to therapy and work in those ways, it makes so much difference to have ones who actually understand the complexities. And so
Yeah.
this is why, for me, I mean, your photo, your link, all of it is there for people to be able to contact you. And there's many resources. This is why also, in the sense of the storytelling, there's
Mhm.
some amazing stories, but there's also the fact that there's big business and white privilege connected to IVF and parenting and stolen babies. There's a whole lot. And there are so many links and resources on the blog. The greatest story ever told is the one we tell about ourselves. And we continue to change that story as we continue to grow and get to add. This is why I love that you're doing, well, the writer. As I'm not a writer, I'm a speaker, but I'm not a writer. So I bow
Okay.
when I read, but I'm a reader, so in it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, when I read, whether it's poetry or books, I'm like, look at how they can bring those words from the ethers and bring it down, and then it lands straight
Mm,
to the womb and to the heart in so many ways. So I'm so grateful for who you be, the space that you hold, and I look joyward also to, outside of these realms, our sisterhood in the ways that we get to know one another as well.
I appreciate it. This has
Is
been
there
lovely.
Yeah, is there anything else that I missed that feels like it wants to come through?
Nope,
It's
I
being
think
mindful
that's
of the
it.
time, because
Yes.
you've generously given of your space and time in these moments. So I'm so grateful. And so, yeah. Yay.
Yeah, no, I'm
Thank
good.
you for you.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, there's no wrong way to have a life. There's no wrong way. And so, however it happens, however it unfolds, we just have to keep on living. Um,
Mhm.
I have a friend that says, stop shoulding on yourself. There's no should.
I love
Just just live. Just live.
it.
And
Hmm.
so that's I celebrate that.
And we live our way into it. We do. It's like we just simply are living our way into all of the moments. And there's a lot of beauty, and there's all of the things, and grief, and all of it. And we allow space. We allow it, because what else are we going to do? Suppress it?
That's not
Ignore it?
helpful. It's not
Then we
helpful to
see what
anybody.
happens. Then we see what happens in our world when that happens. So I
Mm.
feel in our little corner as well that there's just so many beings who, when you hear, you would never know. That was a thing that came through at one point. Someone said, I would have never known what your origin story, what, like, you wouldn't know sometimes, because you see the work of transmutation. You see all that has gone into healing and holding and being able to walk fully in all of who you be and show up every day. It's big. It's big.
It's big.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you for listening to A Sojourner's Truth podcast. It's my purest pleasure to share my sojourn with you. To learn more about the services and the offerings I share with our global community, please visit asojournerstruth.me.